previous session, our two brothers, Balan and Tan Giza, hired Tylo Dolph, a pilot who was seeking to get away from some criminal types who were pursuing him to get their investment back. Our brothers also have their own reasons for wanting to stay clear of the Dominion authorities, and the three of them found themselves caught in a crossfire between the Claison agents of the Typhus criminal syndicates and the Dominion troops that had been sent after the two brothers. A firefight broke out on the Megat 6 deep space station, and they were luckily able to scramble to their ship and get away from the area, taking their light freighter, the Defiant, and thanks to an attack launched by a third party, they were able to escape. However, with their ship badly damaged and with very little fuel remaining, they struck out for the nearest planet, the planet Asgurdi, which is a mountainous planet known for its mining. And that is where we're going to pick up in this session. So what I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to show you a little cheeky little picture of what Asgurdi looks like. There we go. So I'm hoping you can all see that. So as your ship penetrates the atmosphere of Asgurdi, there is an extreme amount of turbulence. There are still little bits of the armor of your ship that are sort of buckling and dropping off due to the damage you took. And obviously your pilot, Tylo, you're sort of using all your abilities to keep it under control. As you head through the atmosphere, you see the clear sort of pink blue skies of the planet of Asgurdi. You see the steep, jagged, snow-covered mountain ranges that seem to cover much of its surface. As you're sort of on the scanners, Tylo, you can see that there's very little flat land. And as you're sort of scanning the surface, you can see that there are a number of these what appear to be large mechanized cities, and they appear to be the cities themselves appear to be slowly moving across the landscape, crawling across these mountains. But it's almost as though as you go through, there's a second layer below the atmosphere. There is a thick layer of industrial smog that seems to hang low over the surface of the planet, obscuring the actual ground, although most of these crawling cities jut far above them, and you can see the gleaming metallic surfaces of these cities sort of studded with space docks around the side of them, and you see various lights winking on and off on these cities. The sensors of the ship, the Defiant, that you're on, are picking up sort of high levels of industrial pollutants in this low-lying smog layer, and it entirely obscures the bottom of these cities and what the means that they're using to move across the landscape. But as you're sort of getting into the atmosphere, your sensors are picking up the loud sort of metallic clanking of these cities as they move and they crawl infinitesimally slowly across this landscape. And occasionally near the base of some of them you see a flare of bright light, orange, red, yellow, sort of illuminating from below the smog layer. You basically pick a city at random pretty much. There's nothing to recommend one over the others, and you head for one of them. As you get nearer, you can see studded around what appears to be a large disc-like construction near the top of the city are numerous round landing pads.
I will go on to comms to see if there's any chatter.
Okay, you go on to the comms. Obviously you're on a public frequency. You can hear there's the normal sort of chat you'd expect with the sort of the docking authorities, people asking permission to land or depart, and the various docking sort of minions telling them what landing pads to go to. From the chat you're able to pick up that the city you're heading towards is called Ferrus.
Mm-hmm.
but you don't hear anything particularly untoward.
Okay, I'll try.
Remind me, John, is this a Dominion held?
It is. You know from what you read previously that it's ruled over by the Dominion governor Jareth Quinton, who, and you know from what you've been able to publicly pick up from like the internet, effectively, that this planet's main export is basically mining. They're like mined for ores, which are there's a lot of quite rich veins of ores in the sort of mountainous geography of this planet. However, you suspect this might be why the cities move, because the geography is quite unstable. There's a lot of volcanic activity, sort of geothermal activity going on the planet. What do you want to do?
Where do you two want me to put this thing before it falls out of the sky?
I guess just pick a spot.
Okay, I'll radio through to the control centre then and see if I can get a landing pad explaining that we are extremely damaged and are liable to drop out of the sky.
Okay, so when you like radio through, you hear a slightly distorted and crackling voice at their end say, "This is the Ferrous Docking Authorities. How can we help you?"
We need to land urgently for repairs.
Understood. Please proceed to landing bay 5. We'll send you the coordinates over the comms, and they send you the coordinates, which you can see leads to like one of the slightly larger landing pads. Like,
yep.
Do you require emergency assistance? Do you have injured or?
No injured, but exterior has taken heavy damage from unknown ship.
Understood. Well, proceed to landing bay 5. Obviously, we can't carry out these repairs for you. You'll have to arrange that for yourself. But if there's no urgent medical needs, please proceed to landing bay 5.
Understood. I will head to landing bay 5. Make the ship look a bit erratic in flight.
Yep, not a problem. You can tell that from the sensors you've got that they've obviously sort of like done like at least a surface scan of your ship to like make sure you've not like strapped loads of bombs to it, or you're not like bristling with weapons or whatever. But since effectively you're like a normal freighter, they're not doing like a deep scan or anything.
Yeah.
You bring the ship round using your expert piloting skills to effectively like erratically but safely pilot the somewhat now temperamental vessel, the Defiant, given the damage it's taken, to this large round docking bay. It's like an open platform that's open to the elements. You can probably see the sort of disc-like shapes on the picture. You effectively land on one of those, and you can see that the sort of gleaming silver exterior of the city of Ferrous proper, and obviously there's like numerous doorways and stuff like that. They're not airlocks because it's not in space, but there's numerous like secure sort of doorways. You bring the ship in to land. You can see that because this is such a large sort of landing pad, there are a few other sort of small ships already on this pad, but you land without problems. You can see there's various people, like there's maintenance droids and there's various technicians moving around, like refueling ships, like attaching like fuel pipes and stuff like that. All the normal sort of activity you'd expect to see at a busy dock, basically. You bring the ship into land. There's a couple of sort of heart-stopping moments where the ship sort of like lurches a bit because obviously you're struggling with this quite damaged ship, but you manage to pilot it in. You lower the landing legs and you feel the comforting like as the ship settles down, and you disengage the manoeuvring thrusters.
Yep.
All your sensors are reading that there's like a breathable atmosphere outside. The pollutants level doesn't seem to reach this high, so the air's quite breathable up here, although because it's so far up the temperature is like fairly cold outside, but it's not so cold that like you couldn't survive in it. But if you go out without any sort of like thick clothes on, after a while you're going to start getting seriously uncomfortable.
Well, here we are, gents.
Okay. How much money do we have?
What, you?
Yeah.
We have. I believe none.
Okay.
None credits.
Okay. Okay.
That's,
So I guess
that's the worst amount of money you can have.
No, it goes down. It goes into the negatives. That's when stuff gets really spicy.
That's true.
okay. And is there a cost for docking? Do we know?
There doesn't appear to be any cost
Okay.
for just like landing here.
Okay.
Obviously, I'll tell you guys so you know this in advance. It takes 1 day and 20 credits to repair 5 hit points of damage to a starship.
I
Okay.
have 20 credits.
Okay, so I mean, if you want to basically stroll in and be like, oh, there's 20 credits, can you like sort it out? They'll repair 5 hit points on the ship.
Okay, so let me just look at the damage on the ship.
I know there's more than 5 points of damage on the ship.
I guess,
29
yeah.
out of 60. Yeah.
Okay, so that's basically 6 days and 120 credits we need to repair the ship.
Yep.
Well, technically,
Okay.
you only need 20 credits because I've got 100.
Okay. Okay. And then we need food and water and stuff.
Probably from you lot paying me.
Oh. Okay.
Yep.
So
So
it's-
you set your ship down since obviously you told the comms tower there's no like medical emergency or anything. A couple of the technicians sort of like glance at your ship as it lands. You see a few of them like raise an eyebrow because obviously like your ship is battered, but obviously they haven't been given like a work detail to work on your ship, so you're pretty much left to your own devices.
Okay. So is there like a, I don't know what you call a billboard in a fantasy game where you go for jobs, or
Okay, there's not sort of like a billboard as such. However, as you presumably you're heading into the sort of city proper, as you head in there at this level, it's all sort of like gleaming metallic corridors. There's all the sort of stuff you'd expect to see on like a space station, you know, bars for like people who are like stopping here and stopping and get a drink while their ship's being repaired. There's rooms available for people who don't want to sleep on their ship while they're getting repaired. However, you do notice that like a lot of the people here seem to be like pretty sort of like well dressed. You know, like they don't look like your normal sort of spacer crowd. They look like they're quite well off. But as you're wandering around, you can see that there are a number of sort of like public access computer terminals that just seem to be like freely available, and they have all the sort of general like information on the system that you'd be able to get publicly. You can see there is effectively there's like a jobs section where you can sort of like, you go onto that section and like you say, it's a bit like a billboard. People post up that they want certain services from certain people.
I'm going to go and find the repair team.
Okay, yep, not a problem. It takes you a little bit of looking around, but eventually you do find pretty near to where you've landed, you find what appears to be a sort of repair shop, I suppose you would say, and it says Auden's Ship and Vehicle Repair.
Okay, I was going to put 100 credits down and say, fix as much as you can.
Okay, a young woman who introduces herself as Jammer Auden says, "Okay, well, what docking platform are you on?"
5.
5. Okay, and she takes a description of your ship off you and all the sort of normal details, and she says, "Okay, I'll get one of my teams out to have a look at it."
Thank you.
Okay, so let's see, 100 credits. That is going to sort you out 25 hit points of damage. And it's going to take 5 days.
Yeah, so we've got 5 days to find 20 more credits.
Yeah, which we probably can do a bunch of hustle here.
That's down to you.
Okay, well, I'll have a look at one of these public access terminals and just see what jobs are available for.
Okay.
Yeah, let's sign up as miners.
Okay, so you can see there are a load of like normal sort of jobs, like miners wanted and stuff like that, which don't pay a great deal, certainly not on the scale that you guys are looking for.
Or the timetable.
Yeah, exactly. They're sort of like long service contracts, like
Look for well-paid cleaners.
sign up to work in the mines for 5 years, and at the end of it, you'll receive such and such along with hazard pay, that sort of stuff. However, you do notice that there are two sort of jobs which are more sort of like high profile, like mo money with potentially shorter time periods. The first one is a cargo transport, asking for cargo, a sealed container of crystals to be transported to one of the other mining cities, and that pays a princely 5,000 credits. There is also a mission, again cargo transport. You get the feeling there's like a lot of like transporting goods that goes on here. This one is to transport several large containers of luxury off-world foodstuffs to one of the few noble estates on Asgardy, and there's basically like 3 people who are rich enough to like own the small amounts of flat land and actually build outwards rather than upwards, and they have their sort of own estates. And like I say, it's luxury off-world foodstuffs that need to be transported to one of these like rich noble estates, and that offers a payout of 3,000 credits. However, it's a lot bulkier than the shipment of crystals, because obviously food takes up more space.
Oh.
Do we have any idea of how long the travel is in days from here to the either location, I guess?
Yeah, you pull up the information on like the public access terminal. You think it'd take you sort of like a day there and a day back.
For both?
The first one, the one that gets more money, would take a couple of days.
Okay.
The second one would take 3 days total. The one.
So the first one was basically like 6 days, like 2.5 or 4 or 5, 6 days, and the second one is 3 days total. Is that right?
Yeah, the first one where you're transporting the shipment of crystals is 2 days. The second one where you'd be transporting luxury food stuffs is 3 days.
Okay.
And that seemed, looking into the details of it, the reason the foodstuffs one seems to be longer is that because they're bringing in sort of biological stuff effectively, it has to go through like extra checks, to check that the food's all right and it's not bringing anything damaging into like the ecosystem on the planet. So there's like a bit more paperwork involved with that, basically, which is why it's going to take a bit longer.
Okay. And then, does the ship generate food, or do we need to buy food?
You would need to buy food.
Okay.
Whatever the standard rate is for rations and the equipment bit.
Okay.
So, given that these are transport jobs and they take a little while, are we going to wait until these repairs are done and then work on these, or are we going to postpone a little bit, take the ship out, and then come back for the repairs?
I think you need to get the repairs as done as possible before you consider taking that thing back up into the sky.
Mm-hmm.
I also, I guess, not know much about transporting goods, but it seems like an awful lot of money for a thing of crystals, and that would make me think that we would want our ship in decent nick.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And as you're saying this, obviously you're sort of like, you're checking through all the details to like confirm all of this. And as you're sort of looking through, based on the sort of like the size of the shipment, which is listed in sort of Balan, and sort of cross-referencing that with like the cargo space you have available, you think that the consignment of crystals would take about like 5% of your cargo capacity, whereas like the massive load of like food that's coming in would take up like 45%.
So you could do both.
Yeah, that's certainly feasible.
So, we can definitely do both. We can do them at the same time. But we probably want the ship all polished back up. So, any ideas what we could do for 5 days? We're gonna need some food.
We could knock over a Dominion guard station, pick up some weapons, some equipment, and some.
Yeah, we've just pissed them off. Let's piss them off again, so they find us faster.
Are there, if we have the use of the terminal, are there like local bounty jobs, or like sort of outsourcing, like bail bond stuff? Or I don't know if they do space bail, but
They definitely do now.
So you just invent the concept of space bail. There don't seem to be any bounty jobs that are sort of publicly available. You would know that sort of like people who like legitimately do bounties like basically have to be licensed. So those sort of jobs wouldn't be like available on like a public server. You can see that there is like a place where like if you'd got like effectively if you've got like a guild user area set up for like being like an official bounty hunter, you could access that, but obviously you don't have the ability to like access that at the minute, so by just using the public terminal.
What does fuel cost again?
500 credits per unit of fuel.
And we've got 1 unit at the minute.
Yeah, and obviously, as I say, at the end of each session, I'm going to knock the fuel down by 1 to represent you flying around. So, if you don't get any this session, you'll have like no fuel next session.
We've got to do 2 jobs in 3 days using 1 unit of fuel.
Well, as I say, the sort of like flying around systems and stuff like that, so like, or a planet, isn't going to affect your fuel. That's why you're getting like the 1 dot knocked off at the end of each session, just to like cover all of that.
Yeah, that's fine. You know, I'm just like.
But yeah, things are looking a bit grim at the minute. I'm not going to lie.
Right, so we either rest up for 5 days. I've got 5 days of rations.
yeah, that's you covered.
Also,
If we split that
sorry, go ahead.
between 3, then we've all got some food in us, but it's not the most ideal situation.
Yeah, I can try and find food. I have a skill for finding food in urban areas. So I have 1 ration. If Tylo has 5, that's at least 2 each. And then if I can find more, I think I have a.
I guess we might do this day by day. See where we end up. So we're good for 2 days, and then on day 3, we need to have something. So I guess if we want to do it like that, we could do with Balan like every day trying to get food roll. We're good for 2 days, so that would be like quote unquote 2 rolls for Balan searching for more.
Yeah, so cross off the rations that you're using for the 2 days.
Yeah.
And I'm going to ask Johannes, can you please roll me a d6 just see if anything like happens during those 2 days?
Let's get the dice open. Okay, here we go. That's a 2.
Okay. So the days pass fairly uneventfully. You know, you have like a few sort of like drinks in the local bars. You've been able to gather a bit more information just from like general talking and seeing people about. And it seems to you guys as you sort of pass these like 2 days that most of the sort of people in this city work in like the lower levels of the city and sort of near to the base of the moving city is where like all the mining equipment is. And basically these moving cities, which local slang people seem like the common people seem to call them crawlers, sort of slowly move across the landscape, like following these veins of ore and other like rich deposits. And basically, the further down in the levels you go in the city, the more scuzzy it gets and the more industrial it gets. Whereas the people who are like richer or who are just sort of passing through tend to like stay in the sort of top areas of the city, which is sort of free of the pollutant smog that shrouds the lower level.
Is that crystal worth something?
Well, I mean, someone seems to be offering a substantial payment to have it moved, so you would assume so. But obviously you've not actually sort of seen it, so you don't. And it would depend on whether you've got any like particular like scientific knowledge or anything like that.
I have some, I don't know if you call it scientific, but more kind of engineering type. Would that be close enough?
I'd let you make a roll for it.
Okay.
So,
D6?
Yeah, roll me a D6.
2.
Okay, now, just to check, are you guys actually going to like accept this job? Because obviously that'll affect the result of the roll, because you'll actually be able to like look at the crystals, whereas if you just go on the public information, it'll be more difficult.
Well, if they are amenable to us scheduling it until we have a ship, then yeah.
Okay, so as you go to, you basically arrange on the public network, you arrange a meeting with the person who's organising this. It's a man by the name of Denon Jackal, and he seems to be sort of fairly well off. You know, he's wearing like nice clothes. He's of a noble bearing. He's sort of fairly well turned out. One thing you do notice is like as you sort of like you meet in person and you're discussing the job, he seems a little bit sort of on edge, a little bit sort of, you know, like checking around, a little bit sort of like furtive. Like he arranges to meet you in sort of like the back of like one of these like local bars, like not in like a public place. Obviously you can make of that what you will. And as he sits there, he says, yes, so as I said in my notice, I require my consignment of crystals to be transported to Tungsten City, and if you're able to, obviously of course I've got all the relevant paperwork for it, but if you're able to transport it should only take a couple of days, then I'll arrange for you to receive payment once I've received word that the consignment has indeed arrived.
And we get 20% in advance?
Make me a charisma roll.
Oh,
Okay, he says, well, I can see why you'd want a little bit in advance. He said, I'm afraid the maximum I would be able to do though would be 10%. That's the best I can offer, I'm afraid.
20.
Well, we would definitely take 10% in advance.
Okay, so he arranges like an electronic transfer effectively to your bank account rather than handing you like physical credits. He hands over 500 credits to you.
Okay. Perfect. And did we want to examine the crystals, Tyler?
Yes, I need to make sure they're not going to react whilst we're flying, especially in turbulent conditions.
Okay, so you get this consignment, you load it onto the ship, all seems perfectly fine. It's like a large sort of metal like secure crate. You get it on board the ship. As you're sort of all stood around in your cargo bay looking at it, obviously the repair work's going on the ship outside, you can see that there's like a fairly heavy duty sort of like electronic lock on the crate.
Oh,
I can pick electronic locks. No, hang on, let me make sure that's true. I picked mechanical locks, which is obviously not the same.
I'd still allow you a roll. It's fine.
Okay, let me try that. So on a 1 or a 2. Ooh. This one is beyond me, guys, I'm afraid.
Yeah, you spend a bit of time like tinkering around with it, but it's like a seriously like heavy duty lock. Whatever these crystals are, the owner obviously didn't want anyone getting into them. Now that's not to say you can't like force the lock or anything, but if you'd have made that roll, you'd have been able to unlock it and then like relock it with no sign of it. Whereas obviously if you brute force it open and then deliver it, it'll be obvious someone's like brute forced it open.
Mm-hmm. Which we don't necessarily want.
Yeah,
indeed. At this point, can I please ask Tan, can you please roll me a d6?
Sorry, that was a misclick. 3.
Okay. As you're sort of obviously like watching your brother Balan sort of like tinkering around with this lock, and you know he's not really getting anywhere with it. As you're sort of like doing it, you just sort of like rest your hand on the crate, you know, just sort of like you stood there sort of like watching him like peering down at this lock he was doing, and as you do so, you feel a vague, almost imperceptible vibration that seems to like ripple through the crate and sort of down your arm. You feel it. However, when you look at your brother, it's quite obvious that like he hasn't felt it. No one else seems to have noticed it.
Right. Hmm.
Okay, so you've not been able to get into the lock. You felt this strange feeling from the crate. What do you guys want to do?
So, let's. Is there a way to tell if the crate is like what kind of crate it is? Is it airtight? Is it?
It's airtight, watertight. It's a completely sealed unit with this very like heavy duty lock on it.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, we could melt the lock off, no problem. But we need the credits.
We do. We need the repairs and the fuel. Should we go and check out the second job?
Well, that was 3 days, wasn't it?
Yeah.
What? How long the job takes?
Yeah.
It's going to take 2 days to do this. It's 3 days for the other one.
Yeah.
Yep.
But there's nothing stopping us doing both, right, John? There's space for both sets of cargo in there.
Yep. Definitely. Okay, so you arrange a meeting for the second job, and you see your fairly typical sort of trader type there, and he's like, "Oh, come about the shipment, have you?" He's like, "Oh, splendid, good. I need someone to take this," and he like gesture. He's arranged to meet in a public place. He gestures like basically a large consignment of like massive crates. They're not fully secure, sort of airtight ones, like the one you've seen with the crystals in it. They're just sort of like normal sort of transport crates. And he says, "Yes, I need you to take these to the Brast estate."
Okay. And are you able to provide 20% in advance?
Give me that charisma roll.
Hoo-hoo.
Okay, he says, "Well, I don't see why not. I mean, after all, this shipment's fully insured." He says that shouldn't be a problem, and he arranges the transfer and gives you 600 credits.
Okay. Right. So that means we have 1,100 credits. So I suggest we spend 20 of them to finalize the repairs, 500 to buy a second thing of fuel, and then let's buy 80 credits worth of food to have on the ship, so that in future we can do kind of longer trips without having to worry about food. And that would still leave us with 500 credits for extra bits and bobs. Thoughts?
Well, if you add another day's labour onto the repairs,
Yeah.
it's just going to take a hell of a lot longer to get this all done. We'll manage on 95% of the ship.
Okay.
And plus, there's no reason why you can't do the jobs, then come back here and be like, you finish it off.
Yeah. Okay.
And upgrade the ship.
Well, do you want to go after 2 days then with the 10, or do you want to do the 5 that we talked about?
Well, if once we're at 50%, we can probably plod on. At least it's going to be more stable to fly.
Makes
But
sense.
the way I see it now, we've got 2 shipments and we're on a deadline. So we've got 2 days to get the crystals gone, and we've got 3 days to get this fruit and veg wherever it needs to be.
Yeah, well, I suppose you would be the highest arbiter of if the ship is good to go.
Okay, so we'll go after 2 days, John, if
That's
Gemma
fine.
Orden is happy to delay that. We'll still pay her the 20% to do the last day that's needed, the 20 credits to the last day that's needed.
Yep. Yeah,
We'll top it up
you,
with
you,
one.
you basically say, oh, well, can you get it to this level of, like, so we can actually, like, fly it? And then we've got a few things to do. Here's the money, we'll bring it back and you can finish it off.
Yeah.
She's obviously, like, used to such requests because, like, people are, like, doing their business. She's like, yeah, that's fine, not a problem.
Cool. So that's what we'll do then.
Okay, and what I'll do, John, just for convenience, is I'll add the food to the ship.
Okay, lovely.
Right, okay, brilliant.
Okay, so which of these do you want to do first?
Well, we've got the crystals, and we've got a day left to get the other one done. So let's move the crystals. If anything, this is going to be the one that's going to be the most problematic.
Okay.
Famous last words then, but okay.
So yeah, you pull the location of the mining city of Tungsten off the public network. That's not a problem. Your ship's repaired to like a reasonable state. Obviously, I'm going to rely on you guys to like up your hit points and whatever for your ship.
I took care of that.
Cool, lovely jubbly. And you have a slightly shaky takeoff, but it's manageable, and you start heading towards the city of Tungsten. Obviously, you've got like a day before you get there. Is there anything in particular you guys want to do during that day?
I'm just going to check overall systems after that firefight and make sure generally the internals are okay.
Yeah, it seems as though you've got pretty lucky in that most of like the internal circuitry is working fine. I mean, you wouldn't like to take it into like a space combat at the minute, but
No,
as long as like you don't have anything like that, you should be okay until you get it repaired.
that's fine.
Okay. So, as you're sort of doing that, can you please make me a wisdom roll, Tylo? Okay, so you're piloting your ship along, and as you're doing so, you notice 2 sort of small like fighter craft basically drop out of the lower atmosphere. Because of the failed roller, you only notice it when they're like virtually on top of you.
Yep.
One thing that does strike you is that even though they're obviously like Dominion fighter craft, They don't have like the normal sort of like regimental markings on them. They appear to be like unmarked.
Right,
And-
guys, problem.
As you're flying along, they've literally sort of come down like almost on top of you.
Okay, so I will run and man the gun. We'll not turn it on or draw attention to it, but I'll be very, very close to it in case it goes that way.
As you're doing that, you see a winking light on the dashboard, Tylo, which says that they're attempting to hail you.
I'll answer.
Okay, you hear a voice that says, "Stand down in the name of the Knights of Dagal and prepare to be boarded." Now, obviously, the rest of you in the ship hear this as well,
I
and
haven't stood up yet.
certainly, Tan, you would know that the Knights of Dagal are the sort of force hunting arm of the Dominion. They are like a group that's like dedicated to basically either recruiting those who have abilities with the Way or like dispatching them if they like refuse to join the Dominion.
So this is Dominion tops. We can't really do that.
How far are we from Tungsten City?
Yeah, you may be sort of like a couple of hours away
Okay.
when they sort of come down on you.
Okay.
Want
And
to board me in midair?
effectively, these ships are like the size of like TIE fighters. Effectively,
Okay.
yeah, they appear to be saying like prepare to be boarded,
Okay.
and they're sort of hovering like just over the top of you, so matching your speed and your direction. You're sort of like hovering just above like the thick sort of pollutant layer, and they've
Okay.
just dropped down.
Oh, into the pollution then.
Okay, no problem. So what I'm going to say is, can you make me a dex roll for your piloting, and I will make one for them. Okay. Okay, so you drop into the thick cloud cover offered by the pollutant layer, thinking that due to like the heavy sort of ions and stuff like that in the cloud, it'll make using sensors difficult, which is obviously as true for you as it is for them. You drop into the cloud, you hear like a bit of sort of chatter between the two fighters, and they follow you into the thick pollutant layer.
Well, this is where I'm hoping my mechanical eyes are going to help me.
Indeed. As soon as you go in there, pretty much like your sensor range drops down to almost nothing. So you're literally like flying by the seat of your pants, like using your eyesight. You can just hear like static coming through the like comms system as the pollutants are causing issues with that as well. And obviously, because you're at low level now, occasionally sort of like mountains just like appear out of the pollution, and you're like having to like zoom round them, relying just on your sight. So I'm going to ask you, can you make me one more dex roll?
Oh,
Okay, so you don't crash into anything because you've got the cyber eyes and you're a good pilot. However, as the mountains are starting to get thicker, you have to like pull up out of the pollutant layer, just like skimming the top of it. And as your sensors sort of come back online, you can see that you appear to have lost one of the fighters. However, one of them is like still on your tail.
well, hopefully we can shoot that one. Balan?
Okay. So let me just work out how this works again. Uh, 9 doesn't hit, I guess.
I don't believe so, but I will have a check. I've not yet memorized all the Starship stats, I'm afraid. Okay, so yeah, 9 is not a hit. You fire at it, you do hit it, but the armor of the ship appears to turn aside your sort of like your blaster bolts. However, from where you're sort of sitting, like basically looking out the windows, Tan, you see like the sort of porthole on the top of the fighter open, and a figure wearing a black robe climbs out onto like the top of the fighter craft.
So we have one weapon on the ship, right?
Yep.
Okay, I guess what I what I will be doing is
Yeah, the Defiant just has like a light laser, basically.
yeah, and Balan is doing that. So
Okay.
Oh, I guess I'm gonna be in where our like exit ramp is, probably the cargo bay. In that case,
Okay.
I'm probably there, and I've strapped myself to the wall with a cargo strap, so that if worst comes to worst and someone's trying to board, I'll be there.
That is absolutely fine. So as you're sort of like you're watching through the portholes, as I said previously,
Yep.
you see this black cloaked figure sort of tenses, and then he does like an impossibly like massive jump, covering the gap between his own fighter, which obviously now has like no pilot, so it's just going like straight forwards. You see him land on like the top of your ship basically, and you hear a slight like thump as his feet touch down.
Silo, spin.
Okay.
Hold on.
I will spin.
Okay, so let me make a. Obviously, you don't have to make a roll for that. Let me make a roll for him. Okay, yeah. So you spin, and you're rewarded as the ship spins around, as you see this like figure with this black cloak flailing around himself, so fall off the hull of your ship, and he disappears into the thick level of pollutant. A few moments later, there is a loud explosion from behind you as his ship, just sort of going straight forward, hits one of the many mountain peaks and explodes in a fireball.
Good work. Good work.
Okay. Now, does our ship have a transponder?
Usually.
Yeah.
Maybe we should turn it off.
Yeah, maybe when we land, it's a bit hard to get to.
Okay.
Okay. And since you've lost the other ship that was following you, the rest of your journey is fairly uneventful. You arrive at the city of Tungsten. It looks very similar to Ferris, albeit slightly more sort of rundown and grimy. You request a landing permission. You are given it, and you land at one of the docks, where you are met by, again, a fairly sort of like shifty looking individual who like doesn't give you any name. He just sort of like walks up and he's like, so have you got the consignment?
If you've got the confirmation and the money.
He says, yeah, I can arrange transfer of the money, but first of all, I want to see the goods.
All right.
Yeah, make sure everything's above board.
Okay.
He says, yeah, don't bring them out here though. I'll come and have a look at them on your ship if that's all right.
Fine.
He walks up into your cargo bay, walks over to where the mechanical lock is, like puts his thumb on like the pad on the lock. It clicks open. He only very slightly like lifts up the lid so he can just have a peek in. Then immediately like puts the lid down. You hear the lock like, and he's like, well, that all seems to be fine. I'll arrange for the goods to be taken off, and if you'll pass me your data pad, I'll arrange for the transfer of the funds.
There we go.
Now, question: when he opens the thing, is there dry ice fog rolling out from inside?
There is indeed. There's only a brief wisp of it though, because he literally goes.
Yeah, there's a whip. Yeah.
And as he sort of does that, you feel this same sensation, but slightly stronger with the lid open, and you have no doubt that what you're feeling is a sort of a tremor in the way coming from something inside the crate.
Mm-hmm. Now, okay, yeah. Well, we'll get the money first.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking that myself. Yeah.
He calls for like a crew that he obviously had waiting, and they bring like one of those like hover like trucks on. You know, like put the crate
the
on
sled.
top of it. They start taking like the hover sled down the ramp and off the ship. At which point he takes your data pad off you, and he transfers the remaining 4,500 credits.
Oh, that's good.
And he says,
So I'll
he's literally like, as soon as he's transferred the credits,
Yeah.
he's like, right, I've seen a bit. And he starts walking off, and then you say,
yeah. So that's a rather small crate for crystals, which I can only presume you're going to use in your drill tips.
well, make me a charisma roll.
Okay.
Or
You
or
asked
can,
for
or you can do wisdom. It's up to you.
Yeah, I will do wisdom because
There'll be a lot of times when I like throw out these. This is just like discern like the guy's sort of like mood and whatever.
Yeah.
There'll be times when I'll throw out an attribute test and I'll say it's for this, and I'll suggest something. But if you guys are like, oh well, could I use this? I've got like a reason for it. Feel free to shout it out. The worst I'm going to say is no.
Yeah, but wisdom is fine. Charisma is fine too because I seem to recall that I absolutely aced my charisma stuff last time. But wisdom is gonna go off now. 2, so that's very good.
Okay, he's like, yeah, that's right, drill tips, and you're like, he is lying. He's blatantly fucking lying.
So I did a stint with asteroid mining some
he
years
looks
ago.
a little bit nervous, and he's like, oh, all right.
And like when the cycle was good and we got the shipment sent out on time, we could order, or well, the boss could order some like synthetic diamond tips. But that was always a bigger affair. They sort of, well, they're massive is the thing. And
He's like, oh well, you know, we don't really use them as the actual drill tips, but in the laser drills we've got what we've got in the deep levels, we need to have focusing crystals to like focus the laser to a point so that we can like drill down deeper through the harder stuff. He's still lying.
Right, so
Like,
you're running.
You sort of trip him up in a few things
Yeah.
where you're like, that's not how mining equipment works.
So you're running just so that I get, because we use the mechanicals, and you're using the laser
old
drill.
school, he says.
Yeah. You and this is I'm getting to the point. So you're running power all the way from your, I don't know, your staging area, the city. You're running power lines down there to power the laser drills. That seems that seems hazardous.
He says, well, yeah, we see when we do some of the horizontal shafts, it's very hazardous for people to actually go in with like the old school mechanical drills. Whereas if we can focus the laser drills so like to a point to like get it into like the far end of the shaft, we can more easily access the minerals down there without endangering any of the workers.
Right, yeah. How big is your crew?
You know, it's like a couple of beads of sweat, like
Yeah.
tripping down. It was just like, yeah, mine in a.
But that's a tough job.
Yeah. He's like, oh, what? He's like, well, we have different shifts. He says, we normally have about a dozen people at a time, sort of like manning each of the laser drills. You know, we've got assorted technicians, etc. You know, mechanics there to like make sure it keeps running, solve any like technical problems. That sort of thing.
Well,
He says, to be honest, I don't directly work them myself. I'm not a technical expert. He says, I just like
you're
acquire.
management then.
Well, I'm more accurate. The acquisitions department. I acquire like the parts we need to like repair the laser drills and such like. You know, they tell me the focusing crystals have gone on drill number 6. I have to arrange to get some more to replace it, and then I turn it over to the tech boys. They fit them. Everyone's happy.
Well, I'm not really your most accomplished sort of ship mechanic, but I know my way around some mining equipment. So while we're here and we have, of course, done business now, would you mind giving me your details? I'll sort of lower my voice. If the gig dries up here, I'm gonna need a working contract, you know. So given you have a mining outfit, I can bring you the old school knowledge. I can run the power lines. That seems very. I can probably upgrade your shit.
Okay, at this point he's perspiring quite freely, and you, because you succeeded on your previous roll, you can see like he's sort of like he's tensing up. He's obviously getting ready to make a run for it. Yeah. As you're sort of like pressing him on this information that he doesn't really have, and he's like, I'll just keep you busy until like I can sort of edge my way close to the door, and you can tell he's getting ready to turn around and like run off.
So can I just like put my, because I was coming up to him with like my data pad or whatever. It's like, do you want to like put your details down so that I can contact you? Can I just like get up to him and sort of like try to put my arm around him, like, yeah, we're friends now, in an effort to like just grab him when he bolts.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, can you roll me a d6 and add your dex modifier? I will roll a d6. And this is sort of a bit like initiative, and it's basically just to see whether you can...
Who gets to go?
You can get the arm round him before he like, makes a run for it.
Ooh, 1. I don't know if that's good or not. But...
okay, so obviously he's not massively far away from you. He's still like within range. But like, so as you're reaching out and moving close to put your arm around him, he just turns around, he bolts down the ramp. And he just starts like running across the docking bay.
Yeah, I just yell after him. It's like, "Don't hurt yourself on the crystals, guy."
He doesn't even look round. He just carries on like running. Eventually, he gets to like one of the doors, and you can see him sort of like pressing the thing, like open the doors.
Yeah. So I'll get in the intercom. Like, so that wasn't crystals. That wasn't crystals at all. So I hope whatever that was, it wasn't. I just hope it wasn't organs or some.
Want to go
Let's
and
just
find
go.
out?
Go after him and find out.
Want to
Should we
find
go
out?
after him and find out?
I mean, that's you've got like a little bit of time if you want to do that. I mean, obviously he is like running away from you, but he's not exactly like an Olympic sprinter. He's just like your standard traderly type who's like a bit out of condition. So he's just opened the door. So like, if you act now, you can follow him. But obviously, if you leave it much longer, he'll have disappeared into the.
I guess that's a good point there. When if I get on the intercom, I was like, well, that wasn't crystals at all, and there's a chorus of, do you want to go after him? I guess that's me bounding down the ramp then.
Okay.
In which case, since this is like a more of a sort of like pursuit, maybe a strength roll.
Yep, we're good.
Okay, so basically you sort of, because you're like quite a lot fitter than this guy, you sprint across the cargo bay, and like just as he's opening the door and he's disappearing to it, you're like literally like within arm's reach of him.
Yeah. So what I'll do is is the door open already? Did you get to the pad? Or
the door's like half open. It's just going like shh.
Yeah.
Spear him.
So Tyler.
Just spear him. Get him.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Obviously, I'm assuming you guys all have like comms with each other, so you can talk while this is going on. That's fine.
So I run up to him, and because the door is still half closed, I just get him from behind, and we just like smash against the half open door.
That's absolutely fine.
And he's there first, of course, so he's the buffer, and he gets the door.
You pretty much slam him into the door, and he sort of like slides down the front of it. And you sort of like, you pretty much like pull him back out of the open door and like press the thing against the door, just like slide shut again.
Yep.
And he's sort of like lying on the floor, sort of like holding his hands up like that, obviously expecting that you to like beat him.
Yeah. So I'm looking at the pad there. just to see like what it is, if it's just you touch it and then it's good, or if it's a
Yeah, you just
an
touch
actual security device where you need to have like genetics or the fingerprints.
it. No, you just touch it.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll tap it, and when it opens, I'll turn back to him. And so, yeah, sorry about that. Hopefully you didn't.
So what are you doing? I paid you your money.
Yeah,
He's
you
like
did.
holding his hands up like,
Yeah,
what
it's
are you
like-
doing? Oh, it was your lap.
Yeah.
over
Yeah, you
him.
did. Yeah, you did. But then you started bullshitting. You got me curious now.
Is that a lot? Is that a lot? I don't see what businesses of yours. Our transactions complete. You've had your money. You've made the delivery.
Well,
now we go our separate ways. That's how this shit works.
well, clearly not, because I'm here. To get back to my point, that wasn't crystals, and you're a liar. So,
He's like, it was crystals. And as he's saying that, he seems to be telling the truth at this point. He's like,
yeah,
it was crystals.
He's weirded out by me saying it's
You're
not
like,
crystals.
it's not crystals, and he's like, yeah, really,
Yeah, it is. Yes, it is. Okay. But it's not for drill tips, is it?
At which point he's like, all right, fair enough. It's not for drill tips.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, you wouldn't understand though.
Why is that?
He's like, look. He's like, the way it breaks down is this: we found these crystals in like one of the deeper mines. Now, I know, because like I say, I was telling the truth. I'm in the acquisitions department.
Mm-hmm.
I know of like a couple of times when like these have been found before, and the like the Dominion, and he sort of like looks around. He says, as he expects like Dominion troopers to like leap out of the shadow. He's like, look, whenever they're discovered, the Dominion swoops in, they scoop
grabs
up,
them.
they scoop them up. All sort of trace and records of them is removed. He says, but with these ones, we managed to sneak them out of one of the deep mines, and we figure, look, if the Dominion wants them so much, they've got to be worth something. Now, the piss poor wages, like most of us, like get paid in the mines.
Yeah.
It's barely enough to make a living on. That's why we have to work down in the mines. But like, I figure if these crystals are like worth something, maybe like me and my guys can find some way to like ship them and make a tidy profit off it, and maybe some of us can actually like get out of the mines.
Okay, so let's establish some ground floor details here. Yeah, so the Dominion can go stuff itself. We're on the same page with that. You know that if you try and sell them, though, you might get picked up. And I'll keep my comms open so that my friends can hear me.
Yeah, the rest of you
Oh,
guys
how
can
did
hear
they
this
get
going on.
$5,000?
He's like, obviously he doesn't hear that, but you hear that, Tan, and he's like, look, yeah, he's like, I know it's a risk, but look, how many people do you think are like dying in those like mines every day, or getting like diseases and like illnesses from being down there? He's like, look, if we've got a chance to like get a bit better life for ourselves, well, surely you can understand we've got to take it. I mean, like we're putting our lives at risk every day for like shit money, like barely enough to live on. Like, if we get caught doing this, yeah, okay, it's a risk, but you know, like if we don't, maybe we can get ourselves out of it. I mean, like I say, I could die tomorrow working at the face.
So do you have a buyer lined up?
He's like, no, not yet. But the reason we wanted you to bring him here to Tungsten is because like I've got a bit of influence around here. I can probably sort of like keep them safe while some of my people back at Ferris are like looking for a buyer, and also it means that like if my people at Ferris are looking for the buyer, if they're searched or anything, we've like covered up the connections between us, then they won't find the crystals there, so they can deny it, and that there'll be no proof that they've done anything. So it makes it a bit safer. I'm not saying it's foolproof. I mean, like I said, we've not got a buyer yet, but we didn't have time. Like obviously there's a limited amount of time we can like keep this covered up, and we know as soon as the Dominion get word of it, they're going to send their people in to like try and scoop them up. wait a few minutes, see if Johannes jumps back on. Okay, so while we're waiting for Johannes to get back on, is there anything you guys want to be doing at the ship while this is going on?
Well, I guess assuming that it hasn't turned into a firefight, and they're just talking, I would like to jump onto the nearest public access terminal and see if there's any jobs transporting anything back to Ferris, since we're going to Ferris anyway.
Okay. So you find that there is indeed a job transporting a large consignment of textiles back to Ferris. The payout is 15,000 credits.
Is it too much to take at the moment?
You'd be just about be able to squeeze it in. Like I say, it's a large consignment of luxury off-world fabrics.
Ooh.
Okay. So if you want to jump back to where you were with
Okay.
Johannes, I'll...
Yeah.
Like
So
that.
my internet died completely.
It's fine. These things happen. Okay, so you've got this guy, and he's like, "Oh, we're taking this risk because the Dominion are going to find out about it eventually and come and try and scoop it up. Whereas if we can squirrel it away and then potentially find a buyer, maybe we can make enough money to get ourselves out of the scuzzy mining part of the city where we work."
Okay, so they don't have a buyer, which was the one thing I tried to ask them before.
No, they don't have a buyer at present.
Right,
They
so-
basically want to stash them here on tungsten, so they're sort of a bit away from where they were discovered to make it more difficult to locate them, whilst the people on Ferris are looking for a buyer.
Well, and I'll stand up. I'll offer my hand to get him up as well.
Yeah, you help him up.
I'll help him up and dust him off and say, like, yeah, sorry about that. And really, though, if you want to give me your details, we're going to be around for a bit. Might be able to help you.
Okay, he tells you that his name is Judo Final.
Yeah.
And he basically gives you his sort of his comm frequency, so you can get in touch with him. You can see he's got one of the earpiece sort of comms things on.
Yeah, good. Give me a call if there's something you need help with vis-a-vis your business with the crystals and the off-world plan, or if you're selling them here, maybe. I don't know.
We're on the clock.
Okay, yeah. The ominous voice in my ear is telling me the clock's ticking. So yeah, sorry about that. Again.
He sort of dusts himself down. He says, "Oh, it's all right." Then he says, "Just be a bit careful." He says, "If you see any of the Dominion Knights sniffing around, just deny all knowledge of the shipment. You didn't see what was inside. You don't know. You just made a shipment."
Yeah, no problem. And please be careful. I thought maybe you were in the organ business, and that's why we
horrified.
crashed the door. So
He's like, "Oh no, I won't get involved in that nasty business."
no. Okay, you take care now, and maybe we'll see later.
He
I'll head back.
nods, says his goodbyes, and he heads off.
Yep.
Cool. So, John, I would like to take that job and to move that stuff back to Ferris.
Okay. So you meet up with the contact, who says, tell me, have you done any work like this before? Obviously, the Varinian silk that I'm moving is extremely valuable.
Yes, we have. We've done a number of these jobs. I am the owner of this ship, and
he sort of looks over like your dinged ship and like raises an eyebrow.
Yeah, we have. We've dealt with nobles, and I'll mention the noble estate that we're going to. And yeah, we're pretty experienced and well known. We just had some recent trouble with pirates, which is why our ship is a bit dinged up.
He says, well, you want to be careful with that. He says, from what I've heard, he says, I've heard that Reavers has been sighted near the asteroid belt, so, you want to...
Yes, I did hear that too. But if you are in the market for moving your silk, we can certainly move it for you. We just need 20% in advance, and we are your men.
He doesn't even blink. He's like, that's fine.
Okay.
So he transfers 3,000 credits over to you.
Got to buy a new ship at this rate.
No, I was just thinking, wouldn't it be nice to have one of those TIE fighters flying nearby to blow other people out of the sky?
And he arranges for like several large crates to be moved onto your ship. Again, they look quite secure. They've got little like viewing windows in the side of them, and through them you can see what appears to be a number of bolts of like a very luxuriant, silky looking iridescent fabric that's sort of folded over and like stacked up in the crate.
Okay.
Well,
So then I suggest
let's strip off the fruit and veg and nick the silk.
Okay. There's probably no need to nick it, really. We could just bring it back and get 12,000 credits, right? That has to be less hassle than trying to sell stuff on the black market in a Dominion-controlled city. When the Dominion are already looking for us for 2 separate instances.
Okay, so you head on to your second drop-off, delivering these exotic sort of off-world foodstuffs to one of the noble estates, the Brast estate. And as you fly over towards the coordinates you've gathered, the difference between these big sort of mechanized crawling cities is palpable as you converge on the coordinates, and you see what appears to be a small sort of island, sort of like on like a plateau, just raised slightly above the pollutant level, and you can see the effect is like a large like mansion house built in the middle of it, and then the rest of the island is like lush plants and greenery. You can see there's like a small sort of like private landing strip there with what look to be like a few sort of small craft, part like pleasure craft.
I've got a request to land because they probably got some serious security.
Oh yes. I was just about to say, like, we need to call.
Yeah, as you radio through your very officious voice, say, this is Brast Security Tower 1. Go ahead.
We have a shipment due. We'd like to drop it off in the most subtle place possible for your valued client.
What shipment is it that you're bringing in?
It's assorted fruits, vegetables, and goods.
Splendid. If you proceed to the landing, there's only like one like sort of landing bay. Proceed to the landing bay, and we'll have someone meet you there.
Okay. Do as I'm told.
Okay. At which point, I'm going to say, Tyler, can you please roll me a d6? Okay. So as you're sort of coming in to land at this sort of noble's like private island, effectively, there is suddenly a loud explosion from one of the buildings, and like sort of fireball like erupts on one of the wings of this mansion. You immediately hear like lots of chatter over the comms. There's like this various security forces on the planet are sort of like trying to find out what's gone on. And from what you can gather, there's been some sort of explosion has gone off in one of the wings of the mansion, has destroyed a lot of the masonry. A number of people are injured. They're basically sort of scrambling their like medical staff to go and like look at it.
Want to help, guys, or should I just hover here until it's safe to do so?
Don't hover here. Let's either go in or leave, but probably
I
don't
guess
leave.
let's go in, because if we go away,
It looks suspicious.
someone's going to be able to point fingers.
Yeah.
I shall land.
Yep, not a problem. You land. As you're landing, you see a few people wearing like the standard sort of like grey jumpsuits, sort of like waving you in and like walking towards the ship.
Okay.
You put the exit ramp down. Like one of them sort of like walks up the exit ramp and he shouts up to you on the ship. He's like, "Bring in a shipment."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he's like, "Well, I'll just come on board and we'll just come on board and check it's all above board if that's all right with you."
That's fine. Manifest should be next to the cargo.
Okay. He's like, "What is it you bringing in?"
Food.
Oh, right, okay. And like him and sort of like four other people like in these grey jumpsuits like walk up onto the ship and start looking around at the crates and whatever. At this
Is everything
point,
all right because of the explosion?
they're like, yeah, just some trouble with the locals, nothing to worry about. At this point, I'm gonna ask, can you, Tyler, can you please make me a wisdom roll to see if you notice something?
No.
Okay, so you're all taken by surprise when, as you're sort of like, "Oh, everything all right," you suddenly hear like a clicking sound, and as you look up, you see all of these four guys have like drawn laser pistols and they're like pointing them at you.
Whoa.
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 The guy who was like looking down at the crate is like the only one who hasn't drawn a laser pistol because he's looking at the manifesto, and
It's fruit. We got fruit, guys.
Is the engine still going?
yeah.
Pull up vertically, knock them out the back.
Nice. Okay, so roll a d6 and add your dex modifier, and again this is just to see like whether you manage to do this and get them out before they get to like fire a shot. And I'll roll a d6 for them as well.
My dex
Okay.
modifier.
Yeah.
Is that just the total number?
It won't be 4 anyway.
I say it's not going to be +4 anyway, so I don't think it really matters.
Okay.
So one of them is going to get to fire a shot off. Now, obviously, because you have tipped the ship upwards, so they're sort of falling backwards, and like the one who's at the front is just going to like fire wildly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll a d6 for him. If it's a 1, it's going to be Balan, he's hit, or potentially hit. If it's a 2, it's going to be Tan. If it's a 3, it's going to be Tylo. If it's 4 to 6, he's basically like hit some of your instrumentation in the ship.
Bastard.
Because like literally, he's not even had time to wave. He's just like, "Ah!" as you tilt the ship upwards.
Okay.
So let's see what he gets. Okay, so it's against you, Tylo.
Joy.
Okay, it's 15 enough to hit you.
Yes.
Okay, you take 6 hit points of damage. As basically, as he just randomly fires off, as him and his guys are like tipped out the back of your ship, as you just basically go. You feel a tremendous pain in your back as like a laser bolt sort of like burns through like your pilot seat and hits you in the back.
Yeah, I've only got 1 hit point left, so.
Yeah, so for the brothers Geezer, as you sort of like, as all this chaos is erupting, and obviously you guys have sort of like grabbed onto whatever was nearby, because you know Tyler a bit by now, so like you got an inkling of what he was going to do as you saw him sort of like grab hold of like the control stick. You can see this hole, like charred hole in the back of the pilot's seat, and you can see like the sort of scorched flesh of the deep wound that has been sort of like burned into his back, and you hear like the sort of fading screams of these people as they're like tipped out the back of the exit ramp as your ship's sort of like zooming upwards at like high speed.
Is the one by the grate as well gone down?
He's actually grabbed hold of the crate.
Yeah.
He's still on board, but obviously you're all sort of like hanging on with like your legs kicking below you as your ship's just going straight up.
Okay, so I will, assuming I'm the guy who opened the door, for want of a better expression,
Ramp.
ramp. I'm guessing that I'm close to where that is, and I'll push it to close it to bring us back to.
Okay,
sorry,
you close it. So bear in mind there is still one of these guys on board.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
the one holding onto the crate. But yeah, you've closed the exit ramp. You're in no danger of like dropping out of the back of the ship now. As you're
Okay.
sort of closing the ramp, obviously you're a bit near. As you look down, you can see these three people in these grey jumpsuits sort of like picking themselves up. They take a few like pot shots at your ship with their like tiny laser pistols, but you're too far away, and to be honest, personal weaponry isn't going to do jack all to your ship. So they just sort of like, but you leave them like behind as you're zooming straight up, and you close the door.
Okay, and what I want to do then is I want to drop myself off, assuming I'm still kind of upright. I want to drop off and kind of both feet into this guy's face to knock him off
Nice.
onto the ramp, and then I want to beat
Bang on
the.
him.
Yeah, I want to
Beat
batter
the
him.
big Jesus out of him.
Yeah.
Okay, so so make an attack roll.
Where am I? Oh, that was so close to 19.
Okay, so you drop down, sort of aiming with both feet. Unfortunately, you've like misjudged it, and you like zoom straight past him. You sort of land. So as the ship's like that and the back door's there, you're now like standing on the back door. So you're sort of stood up, and you're looking at him above you, clinging onto this crate, like his legs kicking below him.
Okay.
Okay, so Tan, what are you going to do?
I'm out of meds because we didn't have money to buy them restock, and we haven't had the chance to get more. I guess I'll get close to Balan just to be there. For...
Yeah, you drop down and you land next to him. You're effectively like stood on the back wall of the ship, which is now like the floor, 'cause
The
ship's going
ground.
straight up.
Yeah.
Okay, you can see the guy who's like clinging to the crate. He's like struggling to like get to another one of these like laser pistols that's like still on his hip, but obviously he's like struggling because he's having to hold onto his entire body weight with like one hand while he's like, so it's taking like a long old time. Tyler, what are you doing?
I'm still flying up.
Okay, not a problem. So you're sort of like holding the sticks, of trying to bite back the pain.
Yeah.
So gunning it forwards. The ship's sort of like accelerating steadily. You can see as you're sort of getting higher up, you see the mountains sort of dropping away. The clouds are like whizzing past you.
I'll stop when we hit the cloud layer.
Okay, so you basically you stop the ship and you level it out just as you reach the sort of like the lower atmosphere, basically. Okay, so during that time, this guy's going to have like managed to get to his like laser pistol, but that's literally all he can do this turn because he's had to like stop himself from falling off.
Okay.
So, Balan,
So he has it in his hand, does he?
yeah, he's basically pointing the laser pistol at Tylo, and he's like shouting, 'cause obviously like the screaming of the engines as you're sort of leveling it up. He's shouting and he's like, "Take the ship back down," but he hasn't actually fired it yet.
Okay. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to try and question him a bit. So I really want to kind of run and jump him and try and get the gun off him, or knock it to the ground.
Yeah, that's fine. Just make an attack roll. We'll ignore the damage, but say if you succeed, you've basically grabbed him, like pulled him down, and you've knocked the gun out of his hand. Okay.
No.
So you jump up, you do manage to grab hold of him and pull him off. However, he's still got his hands on the laser pistol. And basically both Tan, Balan and this guy sort of land in a heap next to you, and they're both struggling with each other. Like your brother trying to get the laser pistol off him and him trying to bring it round to like shoot at him. What do you want?
Right. Well, I guess I'm gonna get in, get in the wrestle.
Yeah, go for it. Make an attack roll.
Okay, here we go. Well, I don't have. Is there a way for me to assist with Balan instead of doing something on my own?
Yeah, you could assist, and I'll say you give him like a +2 to his roll.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do, because I don't want to pull my own gun or my star sword because it's going to be ugly. So
Okay.
yeah, I will assist with Balan's efforts.
Okay, so Tylo, you can hear these guys sort of like wrestling at the far end of the ship. What do you want to do? You've leveled the ship out. You're in like the lower atmosphere.
I mean, I assume I heard him say,
Take the ship back down.
take
Yeah.
the ship down. Yeah. Given the fact that they're wrestling with him at the minute, I don't really want to hurt them, so I'm not going to just nosedive the ship.
Fair.
So I'll just stick it in hover whilst I try and, as best I can, tend to this wound.
Yeah, no problems. Okay, so we come round to the wrestling match. So I'm going to ask you two who are involved to like roll a d6. I'll roll a d6 for him. Obviously, you can add your dex to it. Basically, see who gets to go first in this WrestleMania special.
Wrestling in space.
Okay, he's on a 5.
That didn't work. Five from me too.
Okay. And Tan.
Oh yeah, this was for me too. Okay, here goes 6.
Oh, nice.
Okay, so you are going to get to go first, Tan. So you can base from the way that things are going, you can see that like pretty much this guy's as fast as your brother, and as you're watching, you can see like your brother's getting ready to like punch him or whatever. At the same time, he's like bringing up his laser pistol. However, you've got a few seconds to act first. You can either choose to like wait and assist your brother, or you can choose to act yourself before like he gets to act.
Well, okay, we need to take this guy out though. Yeah, because he's bringing up the gun, I guess, to shoot Balan.
Yeah, basically, you see they're both moving like simultaneously. You know, you go in that slow motion like sort of film thing, as like your brother's like, he's like,
And then there's me who's like, and I'll get the star sword out, try and cut his hand off.
okay, go for it.
It's gonna be ugly. Okay, no, it's counted. Okay, come on, praise Gale. 15.
That is a hit. You have enough damage there to like thoroughly dispatch and like kill this person if you want. If you do
No,
just want
it's-
to chop his hand off, you can do
Yeah,
that. As well.
that was literally because he's bringing the gun. I'm just like trying to bring the sword down in time for him not to be able to shoot. That's my whole deal. So just cut off the hand.
Yeah, as he's basically going like this and like getting a bead on you, you hear like the, and you see the flickering of the star sword just like pass through his arm, and his hand still holding the gun flies off, sort of cauterizing the wound. He immediately like falls backwards, clutching his severed hand.
I will put the sword away immediately.
Okay, he's for all intents and purposes like incapacitated. Yeah, I mean he's still technically awake, but he's in no shape to really do anything at the moment.
Okay, so I will slap him on the face to stop him falling asleep and go, really, there was no need for all of this violence. And then, you know, my brother doesn't really want to cut extra bits of you off.
Like gritting his teeth against pain, you notice like he's not taking his eyes off like the Star Sword and your brother, and he's like we didn't know. We thought you were Dominion.
We just.
I'll just look baffled. I'll just like look around at myself and Balan. Like, what part of this says Dominion to you?
All we were doing was bringing in the food you bought and hired us to transport.
He says, "Oh, I didn't hire you to bring it in. All I was planning on doing was stealing the food.
And
Wait,
I didn't expect anyone to get hurt."
What's with the explosion now? And
He's like, "Look,
don't bullshit.
He's like, look, we needed a distraction. The idea was while they were dealing with the explosion, we were going to get you to take the food elsewhere, and by the time they'd got their act together, we'd be long gone."
So it was a heist.
I'll turn around and walk to the other side of the hangar, just like holding my head. Just, God.
And who are you guys? Why are you attacking the brass estate?
He's like, look, he's like, you might not have been here for long. You might not know how things work on this world, but everyone here works for the Dominion, and the governor doesn't care what happens to the people on the planet as long as his mining quotas are kept. That's all he's bothered about. The only reason the Imperial governor's still in power is because like he keeps the ore flowing, and he uses whatever measures necessary to make sure that like production's kept high. Doesn't matter what cost it pays to people like myself or our families. And look, we've and he sort of like he sags a bit as though he's realised that he's not going to get away with this, and he's like, look, some of us we've been preparing to sabotage the mining operations. We hoped that if we could like stop or at least interrupt the flow of ore, that it might cause the governor problems, and maybe we could get shot of him.
Okay.
Look, no one was really supposed to get hurt. He says even the explosion, we deliberately picked one of the took us months to infiltrate the staff at the mansion. We deliberately picked one of the wings that was the least occupied.
Okay. So why are you, if you're trying to blow it up to damage the mining, why did you try and steal our cargo?
He's like, look, the way it works here, he says, you don't get to and he gestures downwards towards where the mansion and the island is. He says, look, you don't get to have a place like that with like flat ground unless you're tight with the governor. And if you're tight with the governor, you're getting a cut of anything that goes on Asgurdy. However, we thought that if we could disrupt some of these shipments while we're doing the sabotage, not only would he have pressure from the Dominion, but he'd also have pressure from his like rich and influential friends. We were just trying to cause as many problems as we can from the governor. And to be honest, we thought if we could get your consignment of food into the bargain and like give it to some of our people, rather than like the shitty gruel that we get fed, everyone was a winner. No one would have been hurt. We'd have got you to drop the food supplies off, and then we'd have just left it at that. You'd have been free to go your way.
Alright. Except our pilot did get hurt. And your friends are probably regretting their life choices.
He says, well, yeah, no doubt they've been picked up. We weren't really planning on staying around after this. And he says, sort of holding up like his stump of his arm, he says, for what it's worth, I'm sorry about your pilot. We didn't anticipate that you'd do what you did. I mean, one of my guys just obviously like panicked and fired his gun. I mean, while he was falling out of a ship, surely you can't blame him.
Really, you shouldn't have tried to rob us. You know, we're not the Dominion. You know, we're just...
He's like, no, but you're working for him.
We're not, though. We're just transporting a bit of food.
He's like, look, you know? if you're helping out the nobles who are in the pockets of the governor, then you're working for the Dominion. Doesn't matter if it says so or not on your your writ of sale or whatever, that's who you're working for.
Okay, but we all have to make a living somehow, right?
He says, yeah, that's true, but I've got my people I have to look after as well. Like I say, no doubt all of this is insured. You wouldn't have come to any harm. You could have put it down to like, oh, rebels or whatever had stolen the cargo. You'd have been no worse off. There'd have still been actual evidence that you couldn't have delivered the cargo. So you'd have probably still got some of your payment. They wouldn't have really lost a great deal because they're no doubt insured. We'd have got the food. We'd have stuck one to the governor. It was win-win. Well, we thought it was until... And he sort of looks around, sort of a bit dumbfounded.
Right. But it's not win-win now.
Well, no, obviously.
Right.
No doubt my comrades have already been picked up by the security forces.
Right. And what do you call your group of comrades? Do you just have a name?
He says, no, we don't use names as much as possible. It's safer that way.
Right. It feels like your faction should have a name. It feels like, if you're going to really stir up stuff, that you need a name.
He says, well, look, we're only just getting started out. We've been taking things very slowly, very carefully, because we don't want to get discovered. But when we found out about your shipment coming in, it was too good an opportunity to miss. We already had the people in place in the mansion. We were just planning originally to try and cause problems with the explosion at the mansion. But when we thought we could get hold of your cargo as well, like I say, it was too good an opportunity to pass up.
I look at Tan and say, what do you make of this? Do we hand him over? Do we hide him? Do we give him the food? Do we bury him in a bog? I mean, I just don't know.
Just kick him out.
He says, look, if it'll help settle things down, he's like, and he tries to reach round to his back with then realizes he hasn't got a hand on that arm, and he's like, look, in my backpack there's a med kit in there. He's like, you can take it, use it for your friend. Like I say, we didn't mean anyone to get hurt.
Okay, so I'll go over and check and see if there is a med kit, and if there is, I'll throw it to Tylo.
Yep, you check in his backpack, there's a med kit in there. You throw it across to Tylo. If you use it, Tylo, you will regain 2d4 hit points.
Yeah, I better use it.
We better buy more. Okay.
When you say you have people to look after, how many are we talking?
He's like, well, look, not all of the miners have signed on at the minute, but we were hoping, if we could get away with this, distribute a bit of this food to the poor miners, get more people on side, we could expand a bit. Not all of the miners have joined us officially, but most of them are sympathetic towards us. He's like, look, we don't even if we could get rid of the governor, they'd probably just put another one in his place. But maybe it'd be a better one. We don't know. But the treatment we've had under the current governor, we just can't stand it anymore. He's like, they don't put this out on the public network, but he's like, hundreds of people are dying in the mines every day. For what? So the Dominion can keep its ore flowing and keep its quotas up. Now you tell me that that's right.
Well, it's a very complex situation we're in currently, and presuming you speak the truth, there's no reason for any of us to be enemies. And this is a sum of very unfortunate events. And I was thinking if there's a way that we could find for you to exit this alive. So you say you're Your friends have probably been picked up by the security forces. Would that be the security forces of the nobles in that estate?
Yes, it will be, yeah.
Are they going to talk about you?
Well, they won't be able to give too much away, even if they do. Like I say, we don't use our real names. It's safer that way.
You're not very attached to your friends. Are they even your friends? Are they fellow soldiers in your struggle here?
He says, look, the way we work is we try and organise ourselves into cells with people who aren't from the same shift, who don't really associate with each other normally. Because then if we're captured and we're interrogated, there's only so much information they can get out of us.
So we can salvage at least one life out of this, and that would be yours. But that's entirely dependent on how quiet you can convince us you can keep about what happened here on board this ship.
He says, well, obviously if you let me go, I'm going to have to lie low because they'll be looking for me.
Oh, yes. And when someone eventually finds you, or you're talking with your friends after a couple of death sticks and some mushroom beers, I don't know what you drink in the mines, but...
He's like, well, let me assure you of one thing. He's like, I'm not going to be like rocking up to a bar and like talking about this glorious incident.
I guess not, but eventually someone's going to ask, whether that's your wife, your children, whatever, your doctor is going to ask about your hand.
He's like, well, put it this way, I'll be lucky if I can support my family now. I mean, what work am I, and he holds up the stump of his arm. He's like, what work am I going to be able to do in the mines now?
I'm trying to say that I need to be sure that you won't talk about how you lost your hand. Because if you do, it comes back to me and probably on my brother here, which is the thing I'm worried about. Like, they can come after me, but...
He's like, well, what assurance can I give you? I mean, all I can tell you is that I'm not going to talk to anyone about it.
Yeah.
I don't know what else. I don't know what else assurance I can give you.
Yeah.
Why don't we bring him with us?
That was my other option. We could use an extra pair of hands here on board the ship. He frowns and sort of looks down wistfully at his stump of his hand.
But he can't work in the mines, right? And he's shown that he's not really rebel material. You know, we could use some help with the ship. You know,
how attached are you to whoever is waiting for you down there? And question number 2, you probably know about tech enough for it to be the onboard mechanic for now.
He says, yeah, I know my way around machinery.
Right. So, and whatever else you need to learn, we can probably get manuals and tutoring for you. However, is this something that's going to be safe for us to do? You need a place to lie low. We have a ship. We move around.
He says, well, look at it this way. From my point of view, if I go back to my family, as you rightly say, I'm going to be putting them in danger.
Mm-hmm.
So much as it'll kill me to do so, they're better off with me not going back. Hopefully they'll think I've just disappeared somewhere, or that I died in the explosion or something like that.
Yeah. And get this. There's going to be jobs that we need to do here, but eventually we're going to go off planet. Depending on how things go, you stick around, you help us out, we'll help you. I'll even put aside some of my, whatever we manage to scrape together, my share of it, and we can figure out a new hand for you. It's probably going to be a technical affair, and probably not very subtle, or it's not going to be your old hand. But what I'm saying is they have the technology to fix your hand. We can do that, and when we eventually leave, depending on how that happens, we might be able to pick your family up as well and deposit you on some other station or world. How does that sound?
Sounds great. I mean, if you can do that for me, I'll help you out however I can. I mean, like I say, my main priority now has got to be my own family and getting them to safety. Because eventually, even though, as I say, my companions can't really reveal much about me, eventually, when I don't show up for work, they're going to realise something's gone wrong, and eventually they will track me down, and the first place they'll go to will be my family.
Yeah. So, and I've been glancing at Balan as we talk to sort of gauge like what he's thinking about what's being said. And John, I would like to assess the man before us, which my wisdom
What is it you're trying to establish? What are you trying to find out?
is he on the level with his sort of pronouncing that, oh, I will, yes, definitely. These terms sound good. I'm on board. Where do I sign?
Okay, make a wisdom roll.
Yep.
Can I help?
Yeah, you can have a +2 to your wisdom roll.
Cool. +2.
Well,
Praise Gale.
-2, I guess.
-2, yeah.
Oh yeah, -2. So that would be just one off.
Okay.
One off.
-3.
Even with Actuous so near, you think he's pretty much on the level. He's not really trying to be deceitful here. He's genuinely concerned that, like, eventually the Dominion will locate his family and they'll pay the price for what he did. And his main concern is, like, can we, like, get my family and, like, get the hell out of Dodge before, like, the Dominion realizes what's going on. And, like, if that can be arranged, then I'll do what it takes to, like, get that done.
Yeah. Right. So unless Balan is giving me the
No, I think that's hide him.
Unless he's giving you the...
Yeah. No, I'm happy. I think we hide him in one of the rooms. We drop back down. We drop off the cargo. We explain that we were raided, that we pulled up, that everyone who raided us fell out.
Yep.
We get our money. We fly back to Ferris. We get our extra money, and then we see where we're at.
Yep. Sounds great. And I'll get his name, by the way. Like, what's his nom de guerre? Like his code sign. Call sign, rather.
I'll post it in. His name is Horo Shul, and I've posted that in the Zoom chat.
Okay.
Yep.
Now known as the one-armed bandit.
That's it.
He's literally that.
Oh, you never know. I'm sure he'll be handy around the ship.
Yeah, he's our handyman.
Oh. Sorry, I'm sure there's a single-handed joke as well, but
Yeah.
Okay,
You
so
want to go back down there with the shipment?
Yeah,
Yes.
like turn it in and say like, oh, we had some trouble with whoever that was, but
Yeah.
we ditched them, and here's your bananas.
Okay. Then you want to go and drop the silk off.
yeah.
All right.
okay, yep. So you, after you've injected yourself with the med kit, and you feel the various sort of
The euphoria.
curatives, rushing through you, giving you, like, revitalizing you. Like I say, it's effectively like a sort of ultra healing plus, like, Red Bull effect. So, like, it perks you up immediately. So you land the ship back down. You can see there's a lot of these, a lot of sort of armored, like, security are, like, everywhere. You can't see any sign of the guys you tipped out to the bottom of your ship. Presumably they've been taken off elsewhere. You see one of the security guys walk over. He's wearing like quite a snazzy uniform. As you touch down, he shouts up into the ship. He's like, "Everything okay?"
Yeah, we had some trouble when we originally landed. We got boarded, so we took off quite fast. You might have found some people in this area.
He says, "Oh yeah." He says, he says those 3 criminals. Don't worry, they've been taken away to be interrogated. We'll find out what's going on with this.
Excellent. We have your shipment for you.
He's like, right, okay, and he shouts across to, like, a few of the other, like, general workers. He's like, bring the harvest sleds over. Get this shipment off. We'll try and be as quick as we can, so you can be on your way.
Thank you.
And they start sort of like taking the shipment off. He obviously checks it all out to make sure it's all good, and he pays you the other sort of 4,500 credits.
Pleasure doing business with you.
Hey.
I'll head off to the next plot then.
Okay. Yep, so you head onto your next mission, heading back to Ferris to drop off these text styles. As you arrive in Ferris, there's nothing really happens on the way there. It's fairly uneventful, certainly compared to the previous activity. As you arrive there, you're surprisingly not met by a human. You're met by one of the Caphis, one of the sort of underworld type aliens that you know so well from your previous history, Tyler. Well, this isn't one that you're familiar with. You see the sort of grey-skinned, scaly-headed alien walk out. He's got a number of his like Claison enforcers with him. He's got like a death stick in like his lips. He walks out and he like and he says, "So, you have my shipment?"
Of course I do.
He says, "Good, good." He says, "Finest Varillian silk."
I'll be lifting like the crates. Like, where do you want it?
He just gestures to like a spot nearby, and he says, "You can," almost like offhandedly. He's like, "You can leave it there. My men will take it from there."
Yeah.
He says,
I shall do so.
He says, "Tell me, was your journey trouble free?"
Absolutely.
It was.
He's like, "Good. These are unsettled times, but I'm glad you've been able to deliver my consignment." He says, "You will find that Corpacora is not ungrateful. You have your data tab
Hand
to
him a data
arrange
tab.
payment." He just like dismissively like waves to one of his Claison, and he's like, pay the men what they have earned." He walks over, takes your data tab, and he's like, boom, there you go, there's the rest, there's the like extra 12,000 credits.
Nice.
Let's go.
Pleasure doing business with you.
And he's like, he leans in a bit closer and he nods and he's like, "Oh, yes, it is good to be dealing with professionals." He says, "Tell me, do you ever deal in slightly more specialized consignments, or?"
For the right price, we deal in anything.
Well, I have. Obviously, this execrable dung heap is not my home, and he sort of gestures around with his death stick. He's like, "But I do have some small influence in a couple of other systems in the sector. Would you consider giving me your contact details if I have any sensitive work that needs handling in future? Perhaps I may call on you to see if you are amenable to further business arrangements."
Yes, I think that could be to our both our advantages.
"Well, if you will give me your transponder and comm signals, then perhaps we can do business together in future. As I say, Corpacori is generous to his friends and to those business associates who deal fairly with him."
Okay.
And he
So I'll give him our
he
details.
blows out a big cloud of like fragrant smoke.
Cool, so I'll just give him our details and he can
Yeah, he takes the details. Okay, so you've dropped that off. So what I'm going to suggest we do now is we have like a sort of 5-minute break, guys. Use the conveniences, etc. We'll reconvene after 5 minutes. See what you want to do.
Cool.
Okay, so back in 5. Okay. So, as you're talking to Corpacora, the Cafis, he finishes off by saying, "Tell me, have you had cause to visit the asteroid belt 364 Sagan in the system?"
We have not.
He says, "Well, I have heard rumours that there is a good deal of ancient technology that has been discovered for those brave enough to risk the perils. Now, obviously, any such technology is claimed by the Dominion for their research base that they have stationed nearby, and rightly so. However, if some of that technology was to fall into my hands, let's say, I would be prepared to compensate the person who delivered it to me most generously."
Would you perhaps be willing to finance such an expedition?
I would be willing to cover certain expenses. However, I would make anyone who I was giving such a dispensation to, I would make them aware that the Cafis syndicates are not to be triumphed with or double-crossed.
No, I wouldn't dream of double-crossing you. It's a dangerous endeavour. The Dominion don't take kindly to it.
Indeed, and I hear that there are many old defence mechanisms that make the mines, the asteroids, very hazardous.
So there's quite an amount of risk, and no guarantee of return. So I wonder, would we both commit to it in different ways, knowing that there was some risk?
Well, hypothetically speaking, what sort of commitment would you be looking for?
That's a good question. That is a good question. Hypothetically, I would be interested in a much faster, sleeker, single-seated support ship, for want of a better expression, and some 3,000 credits for fuel and general expenses.
So, in return for the use of your vessel, you're asking me to provide you with another vessel. Is that correct?
I guess when you put it like that, it looks a bit weird, but we can't go into the asteroid belt with this ship, and yet we need this ship to get anything that is found back here. We've had trouble with the Gala Knights, who fly much faster ships. So I don't think that we can succeed without a second fighting escort. And I've never been to the asteroid belt. You know more about it than I. But I think if we were to do this, we would need a second escort ship.
And that is all.
And some 3,000 credits for fuel and med kits and discretionary equipment.
Let us say that I deliver this vessel and the small amount of money you asked for. What assurance would you give me in return, since you said that we were both going to contribute to this? I'm sure you can see how simply handing over a fighter craft and 3,000 credits to people, albeit you have delivered my goods safely to me, but that is all I know of you. You can see how it is a considerably risky investment from my point of view. What surety would you offer me to convince me that this is worth my while?
I guess so we can certainly offer you assurances that we would go in and that we would explore and that we would see what we could find. No guarantee could be given that we would find anything. Or that what we found we would be able to, sneak out past the Dominion and the research station. However, if if one of your men wanted to join us, on this expedition, he could certainly, see that we would do whatever needed to be done to make sure that every effort was made to make this a successful endeavor.
Yes, I believe that would be acceptable. I will send one of my enforcers with you to oversee matters. And he gestures to one of the clays on these like blue sort of reptilian creatures. And he says something to him in like a language you don't understand, at which point the clays on nods and sort of like walks to stand by you guys. And he says to him, very well, it will take me a couple of days to arrange the vessel and the funds. Is that acceptable?
Yes, I think so.
Splendid. Well, until then, gentlemen, we will meet you back here in 2 days' time.
Perfect.
Okay, and he heads off. As we're sort of like getting to the end of the session now, I'm going to say that in 2 days, we'll skip forward 2 days' time, the Cafis Corpicori.
Is that enough time to have a cloaking device fitted to the ship?
Oh, cloaking device. It's enough time to have it fitted, I believe, if you've got the $1 for it.
Well, it's 100 credits, and we've got thousands at the moment.
Yeah, we do, yeah.
Yeah, if you want to deduct the money and just one of you make a note that you've got a cloaking device on your main vessel.
You might want to do the automated weapon system as well.
Yeah. But I think we have a lot of money, so if we have 2 days, we should probably, buy all the med kits and stuff.
So what we'll do, because like I said, we're going to be wrapping up shortly. We'll do this last little bit, and then obviously we can have a bit of a chat for the last half hour, and you can make whatever alterations you need on your ship. So, 2 days later, Corpicori, the Cafis, turns up. He has a small single-man fighter ready to deliver to you, and he will give you the 3,000 credits. He also gives one of his clays on, who I'm going to call it like a random name for. Let's see. Who is called Togga, Togga, who is going to go with you. Okay, so he hands all of that over to you, and he says, he gives you his contact details as well, and he says, I may not be still on this world when you've completed your task, but if you contact me using these transponder details, I can make arrangements for you to drop off whatever you might have recovered. And as I've said, you will find that to those who are loyal to the Kafis, we can be extremely generous, but we are equally as terrible to those who cross us. I trust
No
you
fear of us crossing you.
Good. I trust you will not make that mistake. Well, I will leave you to your preparations. And he heads off. And as you guys are sort of planning like what you're going to do and heading to this asteroid belt, that is where we're going to call the game to a close this evening. So thank you very much for playing, guys. I hope you enjoyed the session. I apologise for the fact it was a bit sort of ad hoc and off the cuff. But
No, that was good.
That was good.
Thanks.
so I'm going to stop the stream here.